Okay, the referral process is pretty much what we've talked about. When we start testing, there's an instrument in four categories. Again, it's mental ability, and we start using the COGAT. COGAT is a group-administered test. It's a test that not equivalent to IQ, but it's how a child uses their information that they have, what they've learned over a period of time, their maturity, to respond to problem-solving type activities in the areas of language, quantitative, and nonverbal. There's three categories on the COGAT test. And it is group administered. It's paper, pencil. K1 and 2 is consumable, which means they write in the book. And 3 through 5 is scored from a score sheet, so they have to bubble in the bubble sheet. So it's transferring. But the first K1 and 2 is consumable, so they see the book. And it's not a time test at that level. Kids work on, the teacher reads the instruction and goes through each question, and the child chooses their response and bubbles in the booklet. Okay? And achievement, that has been through a process of changing because of state dollars and system dollars. Used to, achievement test was given to every child, and then it was 3 to 5, and now we are using a computer adaptive achievement test. And so we use K1, we're still doing ITBS, the last I heard, for using the achievement score. And that is, again, a group-administered test. A computer adaptive score would come from when a child sits in front of the computer, does a test in reading, does one in math, and then we use that achievement score as what we do. Going back in the COGAT, a qualifying score is at the 96th percentile or above. Achievement, creativity, and motivation, all three have a 90 percentile or above. So the COGAT, the mental ability, is or the mental ability, which we're using COGAT. If a child scores a certain combination but doesn't qualify on the COGAT, then we can either do a TONY, which is a one-on-one, and that's a nonverbal test. And then if the combination, if that doesn't work, and this is that continuing looking at second look, third look, then the other instruments that possibilities is to recommend the child for a school psych. That has changed too. You probably have talked to people in the past, well, if I go to a private psych, I can get a mental ability score, and the system will take that. The system has changed their policy now, rather than you having to do that. If there's qualifying scores, and we have a formula which we recommend this child for an individual psych. We give it to our office, they approve it, then a school psychologist is assigned to that child. They come to the location and they do an independent or individual psych with that child. Then we can use that score as well. So it's multifaceted. There's many ways we continue to look. We try to give every child who is in this process the opportunity to do the best they can to show their giftedness. We do a workshop with teachers talking about the difference in high achievers and gifted. And so if you do some reading about gifted children, sometimes there's a fine line there. And then the identification process is what it is, but is it perfect? No. So, we try to give every opportunity for a child to continue showing their ability, their need for gifted services. Again, we go back to the need. It's determined on qualifying scores, and once all the data is returned to the school, we have an eligibility team, which is a team of teachers, one per grade level, and we meet. In fact, let me back up a little bit. The eligibility team works throughout the year. When we get referrals at the beginning of the year, the eligibility team meets, we go through, and that's who makes the decisions about which tests children are given. Then when the information comes back, the eligibility team meets again, and we look at all the data, and then we complete the eligibility form saying the child qualifies or did not qualify at this time. realizing that if they don't qualify at this time, if there's one qualifying score, we will continue tracking and following that child and continue testing. It doesn't stop. If you get an eligibility form returned and there's only one, but there's not three, we will continue to look at that child with your permission. If you want to stop the test.
Perpetuity, forever?
You know what? I haven't seen any that we've stopped on.
Okay.
We've tested some kids, you know, off and on, all the way to 5th grade.
That's sort of my question too, like and I don't mind speaking personally, my second grader, bless her heart, she's been tested, I guess, 4 times or possibly 5 by now, right? Twice in kindergarten, twice in 1st grade, and I think this fall, although I don't remember signing the form, I really hope I signed it, but, and she keeps falling just short, and my question is, like, how long do we persist, and how long will you keep asking, and should I keep throwing her hat in the ring? I mean, the teachers keep referring
We will always offer
her.
you the opportunity. If we have one qualifying score and there are other instruments to be given, we will offer you the opportunity. It's your decision at that point. We can't say no. You have to say the no or the yes.
I don't think it's causing her long-term damage, but well,
Right.
how many years? We just keep persisting.
We've had some parents that have said, enough's enough,
Yeah.
no more. She doesn't want to, I don't even want to bring up the word anymore
Right.
for testing or challenge or any of it. We've had some parents that have pushed and pushed and pushed, and we've had some kids that have finally qualified in 5th grade. So it totally depends. But again, at the end of the day, we can offer this on the table, and then you can say yay or nay.
Do you have any positive or negative feelings about, like if a kid finally does get in late in the game, are they equally successful? Do they get as much out of it? Does it
From
seem
our
like it's worth it?
experiences, they've been fine. They've been,
Yeah.
fewer in number, but they've been fine. And that's just getting feedback from when they've started services in middle school. So, we're not as in the loop at
Right.
that point.
Yes.
So say they, you said if they pass one part of it, then you'll follow them in the future. So if we get a form and we don't sign it, is that like, you won't request to test them again, or will you request?
No, if the child comes up with a qualifying score, we will continue badgering you for more. You want to be
So even
tested.
if we say no?
Even if you
we'll
say
have to-
no,
You
if it
decide you
comes
wanna
up
wait a
again,
year
so if it comes
whatever.
up on a tab or whatever, then we will say your child's been referred for testing, would you approve it or not?
So if they do qualify in 5th grade, they remain in it for 6 through 12,
Yes,
correct? Or do
yes.
they retest it? They don't retest it?
No, no. Once you're qualified for the gifted program, then you're served.
Is
Now,
this
if you
a
leave the
standard-
state, that's a different story because there's no reciprocity between states
Right.
for identified
Let's just
services.
say that we're all staying with
Yeah.
you. So do middle and high school follow the same testing schedule, or at least middle
Yes.
school? So if they didn't get in 5th grade, or do you see any bonus in them qualifying prior to going to middle school? As far as what you know for APS going, since they don't strictly do the grade?
You know, it's an individual thing. The programs at the middle school are different than they are here, and they are changing. We have a new coordinator, I guess this is about her 3rd year, and she has added quite a bit of rigor to the gifted program in the middle and high school programs. So it has changed. The old way was that if you were identified as gifted, you got to middle school and the math teacher happened to be gifted endorsed, which means they have the extra qualifications to teach gifted kids, then the child got gifted math. Now the gifted child may be gifted in language, but because the qualified teacher was math teacher, that's what they received. That's no longer the instance. They look at strengths, which area the child's areas of giftedness are, and they're placed in that in the middle school. And then but there's also advanced placement, which is outside of the gifted program. So, I mean, children in middle school can be advanced placed in gifted or not in gifted.
Right. When they go to high school, they don't need to be in the 5th program to take gifted or take
AP classes,
Or
no.
even advanced for honors class.
I'm not sure how that's working.
You can still take it for the parents. That's being involved.
There is, we're going to give you a flyer. Ms. Whitaker is conducting some sessions throughout the district, and at the end of the session today, it might be something that might address some of your questions, and you might want to go to one of those, okay?
a look at some of the instruments just sort of visually that, that are offered to the students, K through 5. The top row are going to be the first instruments that are going to be offered. Dr. Smith went through the details of mental ability and achievement. The COGAT, which is the first one listed, is going to be the first one offered in mental ability. They're going to take 3 different sessions of that language. They're going to take a quantitative, which has more math components to it, and then a nonverbal. If there's not a qualifying score on that, the next, but there is a high nonverbal score, not a qualifying, but a high enough. The TONI is the next one on the list that will be looked at. And then after that is where the individual psychological comes into play. In the terms of creativity, the Torrance Test of Creative Thinking is the first one that's offered. And that is also in a classroom, pulled out classroom setting. The next one after that, that if there's not a qualifying score on that, could be offered at academic product. An academic product is something that's offered within the classroom setting. The students are unaware that that is an instrument that is being given to them for consideration for gifted services. So if there is a process where you've signed a form, please, yes, I go ahead and give permission for my child to be tested, and they come home and say, they never pulled us out of class, we never went and took a test. That very well may be because they were given an academic product, again, in a group setting with their homeroom teacher within the classroom. They never knew that it happened. That is something that could happen for creativity, and that's something that could also happen for achievement. That could also happen for motivation. Under achievement, the ITBS, again, K through 1, and then the computer adaptive are the 2 instruments for that. And then the motivation is the gifted rating scale. The gifted rating scale is also a teacher-rated system that they go through and look at a Likert scale, and there are quite a bit of different items that they would look at based on working with that student for at least 30 days. And then after that, the academic product is something that could be considered. We haven't had it in this case that I'm aware of, but another qualifying score under motivation could be if a child has been a district winner in some sort of competition or performance, but as a science fair, something like that, I am unaware that we've had any students that have qualified under that, but it is an option. So this kind of gives you more of a layout of the levels that we look at and as it goes down.
Once the test scores have been tabulated at the Office of Gifted and Talented, they are sent back to the individual schools. At that point, Dr. Smith had mentioned the eligibility team and its purpose. So the eligibility team would meet, look at those scores, and determine if a child has qualifying scores. Once that determination has been made, all of that information, whether they're qualifying scores or non-qualifying scores, all of that information is kept on a system database. And that's where the information is housed electronically, and we also keep individual student folders for our gifted identified and also for our students who've been tested. And that's what we refer back to make those determinations if students will, what they'll receive if they come up for a second look. Oh, yes, sorry.
Just one question on this reciprocity. So this is a statewide program,
Yes.
right? So if you test an APS and you move to Decatur, you're
Yes.
once you're eligible, you're
Right.
eligible.
Slide right in.
Okay.
The only thing is, the City of Decatur serves gifted, their charter system, so their way of serving kids is totally different than what the rest of the
What
state.
APS does,
Yeah.
but you're eligible for
But
the
you're still
services.
qualified.
And not in necessarily across state lines, essentially.
Charter systems, or charter schools, have more leeway in the way they serve gifted kids.
Parents are sent eligibility reports, and that's just a sheet that documents the test your student or child received and their scores. Those students who are deemed eligible for gifted services, we do host a parent meeting so that you're aware of how those services will be given to your child at a setup that we use here at Mary Lynn. again, copies are filed in the PR folder, also the gifted folder that we keep, and then scores are entered on the system database. Questions and answers. I know we've gone through, as we've had our presentation, I put our